Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Dave Robbins with End Time Ministries. Thank you so much for joining me on this edition of End of the Age. And wow, is there a lot in the news right now? Very important. There's the possibility of the World War III scenarios lining up with Bible prophecy. You see what's going on in Afghanistan, many other things, and I'll be talking about that as far as the world governing scenarios and different things. But you've got the World War III scenario in the Middle East region. And then what I want to, and another thing that I need to mention probably is we need to keep the people in Afghanistan, the Christians, our military, all these different individuals in our prayers, because they are put in a horrible situation because of this debacle going on with our military pulling out of Afghanistan. You know what's going on in Kabul and the airport and different things there. We just had 2 bombings. I think there may be 3 confirmed bombings now. One of them was a suicide bomber. One of them was a car bomb. And it killed, I think, 10 confirmed of our military gentlemen, and then I think like 40 or 50 other people in the airport there. So just a horrible situation going on there. People trying to get out of Afghanistan. What a debacle this has turned out to be. And it's really showing the weakness of America. The international community is looking at us like, what in the world is the United States doing? They're supposed to be a leader. But boy, are they weak right now. We're looking very weak and diminished on the world stage. But that's actually a fulfillment, an ongoing fulfillment of Bible prophecy. You understand? And I'll get into it today. So definitely pray for our military, Christians, the people of Afghanistan. Remember them in your prayers. Just a horrible situation. And we want to ask God to keep His hands upon them, because there are people over there that are not, they don't think with a rational mind. I mean, a suicide bomber, not thinking with a rational mind. Those people think, hey, to be martyred, I'm going to go straight to heaven, but that's not what happens. That's not what the Bible says. So, not thinking with a rational mind, you can't deal with people like that who aren't afraid to die. And so, that's what they're trying to deal with this horrible situation. But let me get into my program today, because Modern Diplomacy, it's a news source. They published an article, The New World Order, the Conspiracy Theory, and the Power of the Internet. Do you think the New World Order, the world government, is a conspiracy theory? It absolutely is not a conspiracy theory. The article says the Illuminati, a mysterious international organization made up of the world's top political and social elites, controls the workings of the entire world behind the scenes. This is the world's most famous conspiracy theory about the New World Order. Now, I want you to understand, folks, this is why it is absolutely essential that you make sure you are listening to good news sources throughout the end time. Because you've got articles like this one that says, hey, the New World Order, the world government, people running this thing behind the scenes, it's a complete hoax. And if you were not educated in high school and college on these things. So if you did not have the education and know what the prophecy said, you would say, well, maybe it is a hoax. I've heard about these different conspiracy theories for years, and there are conspiracy theories out there. But the Bible says, during the time of the Antichrist, they that do know their God shall be strong into exploits, and they that understand among the people shall instruct many. So there will be people who have sought this stuff out, that have good news sources, and that have studied their Bible. They know what's coming, and it's going to be a great source of information and instruction throughout the end time. And so this article says, for hundreds of years, legends about the Illuminati have been spread, and many people currently believe that the Illuminati still exists. Now, the article is saying this is all a hoax, right? It goes on to say, it is believed that the Illuminati operate in various fields such as global politics, military affairs, finance, and mass media and control the historical process of the entire world. Now, they're making it out like that's a hoax, but I'm here to tell you that's absolutely what's happening. There's no hoax to that, and I'm going to prove it to you in just a moment. The article goes on to say, and I just pulled some excerpts out of this article because you had to hear it. The article goes on to say the ultimate goal. Now, they're making light of all this, okay? They're making like, oh, this is a conspiracy theory. This is a hoax. Don't pay any attention to it. But they say the ultimate goal is for this Illuminati, this conspiracy theory, to establish a new world order. And they say, article says nobody can prove it, but many people believe it. This is the greatest paradox about conspiracy theories. And the New World Order conspiracy theory has been circulating for a long time and is full of mysterious theories that, however, convince many people who are powerless and dissatisfied with the current state of the world. Now, this is what you're getting from news media, folks. They want to make it out like, oh, none of that stuff's true. Just, shelve that concept. It's a conspiracy theory. Don't pay any attention to it, even though it's very, very real. They say, the article says, the Illuminati, who advocate the establishment of the New World Order through the planning of a series of political and financial events, the financial tsunami of 2007 to 2008 is said to have been planned by the Illuminati. They attempt to influence the course of the world history and ultimately establish an authoritarian world government. Now, this article is saying that the article from Modern Diplomacy is saying this is all a hoax, all conspiracy theory. But listen to me very closely, everybody. This world order, this world government that they're saying is a hoax was prophesied about 2,000 years ago and is as real as it gets. And so I'm going to get fairly deep off into the establishment of a world government here for just a moment, but I'm also going to be talking about the prophecy of the United States diminishing on the world stage, which could play into Afghanistan. You'll see as I go through here, and power swinging over to Europe, and they will usurp authority eventually over this world governing body. We'll talk about it when we get back. So we're going to get back to this and see if we can prove. The article says the New World Order, the world government, is a complete hoax. Well, I'm going to prove to you that it's absolutely real. It's as real as it gets. Now, back to the supposed hoax of the New World Order and the world government. I got two more excerpts from this article from the Modern Diplomacy. They said the New World Order, the conspiracy theory, and the power of the internet. Well, they say, and I'm quoting, supporters of the New World Order theory, it's not a theory, folks, believe that even the powerful United States government is now just a puppet government. That's absolutely true. If you follow this stuff at all, Joe Biden is just a mouthpiece, okay? Do you think he writes all the big speeches that he gives? Do you think that he knows what he's doing as far as all the diplomacy and all of the working, all of the different governmental offices and all the different things he has to be over? Are you confident that Joe Biden is pulling the strings? I know that I'm not. So he's just a puppet, folks. He's doing what he's told. And that's why they've got to have a guy in the office that does that. You do what you're told, because most of the people running this world government, you'll never know their name. But the article goes on to say, while another shadow government, they say that the government of the United States is just a puppet, puppets on a string, while another shadow government made up of a few people make decisions that will change the fate of the planet. All of this is true. They're saying it's a complete hoax. All of this is true, everybody. And the final excerpts from the article says this: no one has substantial evidence to prove that the Illuminati actually exist, or this or the establishment or the deep state or this new world order. They're saying it's all a complete hoax. But is that true? Well, you understand that the term New World Order, which this article from Modern Diplomacy says is a hoax, is written on the back of our U.S. dollar bill. And the ironic thing is that it's not written in English. I mean, I've spent many of those dollar bills over the years. Had I not known this information, I would have thought, it's just some ribbon under the all-seeing eye, under the pyramid with the all-seeing eye, right? It's not written in English. You'll find that it's written in Latin. Inside that ribbon, below the pyramid, look on the back of your $1 bill. There's a big ribbon under the pyramid with the all-seeing eye. It says Novus Ordo Seclorum. The word novus means new. The word ordo means order, and the word seclorum means secular or world. You say, well, why in the world is the term, this term written on the back of our U.S. dollar bill, United States of America, but New World Order's on our dollar bill? Well, it's been there since 1935. It's put there by U.S. President Franklin D. Roosevelt. Of course, Roosevelt dreamed of building a one-world governing system, and he was the driving force behind the establishment of the United Nations, which was established back in 1945. So, this article from Modern Diplomacy says, well, hey, the world government, this New World Order, it's all just a hoax. Don't pay any attention to it. But I'm here to tell you today, it's absolutely real. If it's a hoax, why is New World Order on our $1 bill? And so when they're talking about this Illuminati, this establishment, this deep state, this cabal, there are articles that are then people trying to make you out to believe that it's theory. It's just conspiracy theory. But listen at this quote. You remember, if you've studied some of this, in his memoirs by David Rockefeller, I think it was on page 405, published back in 2002, David Rockefeller, he was the chairman of the board of Chase Bank. He actually said this, and I'm quoting, I pulled the quote. He says, hey, some even believe that we, the Rockefeller family, are part of a secret cabal working against the best interest of the United States, characterizing my family, the Rockefeller family, and me as internationalists. Or, I would say, part of this Illuminati, this deep state, the establishment, internationalist, and the quote goes on, and of conspiring with others around the world to build a more integrated global political and economic structure. He says, one world, if you will. He says, if that's the charge, I stand guilty and I am proud of it. That's a quote taken directly from the memoirs of David Rockefeller, written back in 2002. Now, this article says, but the New World Order, the conspiracy theory, it's just all propaganda, right? It's just all a theory, a figment of somebody's imagination. That's not true. David Rockefeller said, hey, yes, absolutely my family's part of this cabal. They're not trying to hide it. Not if you dig a little bit and discover some of these things. So I wanted to come to you today because the Bible prophesies there will be a world government. The United States will not be part of it, and that powers will swing from the United States. Our stance as the global leader will diminish over time, and powers will swing to Europe. You said, well, how can you tie that into this Afghanistan debacle? Okay, just buckle your seatbelts because here we go. Global elites have been for decades working to create a world governing body. And this goal, the goal is a global governing system so all-inclusive, minutely detailed, it will control all aspects of every person's life. And the intention is to eventually regulate all individual production and consumption patterns. Everything you do in your life, that's what they want to control. With the ultimate objective of thought manipulation and in absolute obedience and allegiance to this one world governing body and the Antichrist. That's where all this is headed. Everything Rockefeller and all these guys were trying to do, that's where we're headed. The Antichrist will eventually usurp authority over an already fully functioning world governing body. So the outcome of these efforts is the formation of international institutions specifically designed to govern the world. You would recognize many of them. They're very recognizable organizations. The United Nations, International Monetary Fund, International Criminal Court, the World Bank, World Health Organization, the World Trade Organization, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or NATO. That's just a very few. There's a giant list of them that are all created to govern the planet, not the United States, or not Russia, not China, not Israel. No. They're all of those institutions, huge, to govern the planet. The World Health Organization. Okay? So, is this New World Order, this world government, that's just a figment of imagination, right? No, it's very, very real. The United Nations is the seat of that world governing body. I may have mentioned this yesterday before we had the huge debacle here in our studio, but that's done now, thankfully. But back in 2012, Fenn Olser Hampton, Paul Heimbecker, and Gordon Smith of the Ontario-based Center for International Governance Innovation, they contributed their thoughts about the role of the United Nations and the future of global governance in a feature of the Council on Foreign Relations Council of Councils. It was an initiative that they had put together. I pulled a quote from that because I want you to hear this. You understand the United Nations Charter was written by a man named Alger Hiss. He was a communist spy, created the United Nations to be a communist, one world governing body. And that's what the charter was designed the United Nations to be. Okay, so here's the quote. They said, as we adapt to emerging global threats, let's not lose the sight of what we have achieved. The United Nations has largely fulfilled the chartered goals, communistic one world governing body, established in San Francisco back in 1945. And in doing so, has spawned an extensive body. I just read to you a few of them, of international laws, treaties, norms, practices, and institutions, World Health Organization, World Bank, the United Nations, all these different institutions that govern most facets of interstate relations. With these applications, the United Nations Charter has become, here it is, they created it to be a one world governing body, a communistic world governing body. They actually said, in this big initiative that they put out, that the United Nations Charter has become the world's central operating system, the motherboard of global governance. They're not even trying to hide what they're doing, but yet this article from Modern Diplomacy said, hey, all this is just that's a figment of imagination. There's no such thing as a New World Order or this world government. Well, that's absolutely not true, folks. You got to make sure you've got good news sources that you can follow in the end time. This article says that the motherboard of global governance, the United Nations Charter, making it possible for ideas such as the Millennium Development Goals, which are now the Sustainable Development Goals, to become policy drivers, and for other organizations, NATO, the G8 and the G20, and civil society to function more effectively. So, the plan to govern the world and its citizens is definitely progressing rapidly, isn't it? I mean, the New World Order, think about this. You've got articles and people that are saying, that's just a figment of your imagination. But you and I both know that it's absolutely true. And you need to be able to prove it because it's a 2,000-year-old Bible prophecy. So let's talk about it. The New World Order, what happened? How did this all come about? Well, after World War II, the United Nations led the efforts to create this New World Order. Or I should say the United States. And for the last 7+ decades, we have been the principal driver of this world governing body. Every single administration since the founding of the United Nations, whether Republican or Democrat, up until President Donald Trump took office, was fully supported the New World Order and the United Nations. Now, they wield, you understand, they wielded vast amounts of international power. I mean, along with the other 4 victor nations of World War II, which were, let's see, China, France, Russia, the United Kingdom, and the United States. There were 5 victor nations. They are the 5 permanent members of the UN, United Nations Security Council. And they have veto power over any Security Council resolution. That's the only way the United States would get on board with it, is if we were given veto power. Well, when we were given veto power, then China and the United Kingdom and all of these were, the big 5, they were given, they said, well, we want veto power as well. And so that's how the 5 got it. Well, the United States is intricately involved in the establishment, or has been up until of this world, the establishment of this world governing system. And over the last, 75, 76 years now, the world has looked to America for leadership in the implementation of this New World Order agenda. And until recently, we've been the leader of not just the United Nations or NATO, but all of the multilateral institutions designed to govern the planet. However, Bible prophecy foretells a complete different political atmosphere in the end time. According to the prophecies of the Bible, there will be a world government established just prior to the second coming of Jesus Christ, but the United States will not be in full compliance with its agenda. So you say, well, prophesied world government. Explain that. Okay. So 650 years before John wrote the book of Revelation, the prophet Daniel was given a vision of 4 beasts that represented kingdoms or nations that would exist at the time of the second coming of Jesus Christ. Those 4 beasts described in Daniel 7 verses 4 through 7, and the modern nations they symbolize are, okay, I'm going to hold right here because I want to make sure that I don't cut this in half. But we're talking about over a 2,500-year-old prophecy. Daniel prophesied about nations that would be on the earth just prior to the second coming of Jesus Christ. You understand that this prophecy has already been fulfilled. Those nations are here, and I will explain that when we